Yeah, so it's Quarantine Radio 3. I guess we can actually start it with, didn't even notice, no punches left to roll with. You got to keep me focused. You want it? Say so.
Did you just Google the lyrics to Say So before you did that?
I mean, I've been humming it for maybe the last 3 weeks, so I was like, now is a perfect time to figure out what she's actually saying. So yeah.
Yeah.
No,
so did you do the TikTok dance next. Or
no TikTok dance for that one yet, but
yeah,
I got to come up with something.
Okay.
No, but yeah,
I know you will.
But how's that been? I know it's going crazy, this record. Like,
well, you love to jump right in without even introducing who the other person on the
true. Because like
we
work with this guy, so I just felt like we were back in the office or whatever.
It's kind of like we're back in the office.
But no, we are.
Well, I'll do it then, Eddie.
Cool.
Not the podcast.
Well, yeah, the intro is
Voice
for Musicians podcast. We are episode 16, radio edition 3, or quarantine radio 3 going on here. So after you see if you hear on the Zoom or whatever, thanks for tuning in. If you're able to, later it'll be on YouTube as well, Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, wherever else you can find podcasts. So yeah.
And wait, this is on video?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I would have looked more like a business manager had I known it was going to be on video.
It's okay.
No, it's fine. You got the headset. You got the headset that either only a banker or a telemarketer could have. So you kind of fit the part.
Well, I would like to note that Eddie also has a headset, and he is neither of those things. So
this is actually for Call of Duty and NBA 2K.
It also is like blends into his beard, so you can't really see it. Your red beard doesn't really mask it, Nick.
Yeah, I have to get some spray paint and color it red so no one can see it on my calls.
Yeah, so that person, if you're not watching, that voice that you hear is Nic Judd of Left Brain, and Left Brain is a business management service, and he can tell you more about it when we get to him, but you'll hear him chiming in with Eddie and I. And then a little bit later, we've got Michael Berg joining us, who ran Silver Rapper for years and runs venues here in Chicago and is an independent music promoter. But since we have Nick on, Eddie, we should probably just jump right into that portion.
I'm with that.
So Nick, without making our audience fall asleep, can you let us know what a business manager does?
Sure. So I like to tell people that I either have the most exciting job in accounting or the least exciting job in the music industry. So what a business manager does is, at our core, we're really an accountant. It's sort of a fancy name for accountant, although we do significantly more than that. Essentially, anything that has like a dollar sign attached to it that's related to an artist and their career, we have our hand in terms of making sure that everything is properly collected and remitted, keeping the ship going with bills getting paid, reviewing royalty statements, making sure that everything's properly being collected. When an artist goes on tour, making sure that tour will actually make them money, or if we know it's not going to make money, at least knowing how much money it's not going to make, so that you can make preparations with the label or with the managers or everybody else in the team, so everyone's on the same page. And then taxes, which is by far the most boring part of what we do, but also very critical.
So for independent musicians, a lot of people that Eddie and I sort of run into in the music industry, artist-wise, think that they need to put their entire team together. You know, they need a manager right away, they need a lawyer right away, they need a tour manager, they need all that kind of, and they need a business manager. When do you recommend that an artist actually hire someone like you? And in your experience, is it a dollar amount? Is it a position in their life where they need it? What do you see as the best time to like
Yes. So
get?
for business, sorry, Josh, you broke up a little bit there, but I get the gist of the question. So it varies depending on the individual artist. Now, the business managers are typically one of the last, if not the last piece of that team puzzle when an artist is putting together a team. Sometimes it depends on the business manager. Some business management firms won't take on a client making less than $1 million a year. I think that there's a point well before then that an artist would justify having them. Typically, it's when things start to get so busy that one, this is like your pure focus. The amount of work that's required to do the business management cannot be handled by another member of the team. Usually, when we're thinking about bringing clients in, we do look at a dollar amount because that's like the easiest metric to look at. So at Left Brain, we will typically take on a client generating at least $250,000 a year in revenue. Now, there's exceptions depending on that individual artist and what they have going on and the workload. But a good rule of thumb for us is $250,000. But I know that a lot of business management firms, it's like $500,000 or even $1 million at some of the others.
Okay.
So what would you say are some like practical accounting steps for artists before they reach that mark of that 250 and they can get the services of a guy like you to just make sure that when they're starting off just making $50 or $100 or whatever, just making sure that they're accounting for everything properly?
Yeah, I think the easiest thing is setting up a separate bank account, really, and making sure that your business aspect is separate from your personal aspect of your career. And what that does is it means that when you're filing your one, make sure you file your tax returns, but it makes it a lot easier on your tax accountant that you if you can hire somebody with a little bit of music experience or even a lot of music experience. There are tax accountants that specialize that don't do full service business management. But by keeping those finances separate, then you're able to easily track it. You're not commingling your personal expenses with your business expenses. You can get your taxes and you can file them. I mean, that's really at the very base level of what an artist should do, is just keep things separate and keep things organized. If you can if you can sign up with a product like QuickBooks Online and keep track of your revenue and expenses through there, that's great. Budgeting will usually come after. Managers can largely, or tour managers can budget before you need a business manager. And some of the other high level stuff is important for larger artists, but is truly a luxury for smaller artists. So I would just stick with that, is really sort of my recommendation.
Gotcha.
And what's the normal method for a business manager to charge an artist? Like what does an artist have to understand if they use someone like Left Brain or another business management firm?
Sure. So the industry standard would be a 5% commission. However,
shout out to the former podcast name. Thank you.
But it varies greatly, and it depends on the firm. It varies more when you're a really large artist, when you're a superstar, because 5% on an artist making $10 million a year is ridiculous. So normally, what you'll see there is there'll be a cap, or maybe they'll do hourly if they're set up to be able to keep track of their time hourly on a client. You may see some cut in commissions at that higher level for Left Brain, because we are aiming at sort of the lower end of the business management market. Some of the clients that we pick up that are smaller, they don't lead complicated personal lives. They have a rent, they pay rent or a mortgage, maybe they have a credit card and like utility bills, and that's it. Things that take 2 seconds to set up on recurring payment, and they're done. So for us, if a client's like that, then we don't want to take the full 5% when the workload is relatively small. So what we tell them is, hey, you take care of your personal side of the stuff. We'll take care of all your businesses and all your taxes and that thing, and we can get a cut in the rate. So for a producer, we typically go in at 3.25. For a touring musician, it's like 3.75 if we're just doing the business.
Gotcha. So Eddie, I don't know about you, but my experience with business managers has not been pleasant. full disclosure, I'm a part of Left Brain, and I can sort of tell our origin story, Nick. It's I don't think people will mind. Eddie, you don't mind, do you?
No, go right ahead.
All right, okay. I feel like we're getting to know each other better. I have clients that were in need of business management. They were at a level where, we were doing a lot of this stuff ourselves. And then I got nervous because I'm not an accountant, and people that work for me, shout out to Whitney, is not an accountant and doing a lot of bookkeeping herself, which I think is pretty common, right, Nick? When you're seeing artists that are about to get to that point, their management company winds up doing a lot of the accounting for them or bookkeeping for them.
I hope that's the case. Sometimes
Yeah.
you pick up people that they've just skated by and they're like, I haven't filed a tax return before. That's a real nightmare. But ideally, yes.
Yeah. So we were doing a lot of the stuff for ourselves, and then I was shopping a couple other clients to some well-established business management firms. And this is kind of just sort of, it's common in the music industry. You go into a company or go into a law firm or a management company or whatever it is, and you're going to get the red carpet treatment. They're going to show you, all the partners are going to come out and tell you that they're going to take care of you. And then as, reality sets in, you sign the engagement letter, or you become a client, or you start working with people, you get passed down, right? Based on how much revenue you have and what your perceived worth is. And so with clients that I had, I would call to talk to the business manager, and I would get a junior associate or an assistant. And it just kept happening over and over and over. And it would be, it got to the point where I had a call with someone, and I was asking him where a sound exchange statement was. And the junior business manager didn't know what sound exchange was. And so I knew it was kind of time to make a change. I think, that there's something to be said for taking a modern approach to business management, and especially with everything that is, the way everybody is on their phone and your entire world is on your phone with finances. I couldn't get any tech reports from any of the other business management companies. I couldn't get, real-time statements. I couldn't tell how much money a client had, which as a manager is a pretty scary place to be, because the first person they ask where their money is the manager. So Nick shares that same frustration and developed his company and Left Brain around that sort of philosophy. Did I sum that up well, Nick?
Yeah, you did a good job. So I've heard this story probably close to 100 times before. And the first time I heard this story was when I first met Josh, when we were sitting down at a coffee shop. And for me, it was really eye-opening because I had left business management at that point. I was a consultant for, and still in the music industry, still in the finance role, but with a lot of more like companies, music festivals, things of that nature. Because I had left it behind because I had felt the same way. The company I was working at was doing, their work quality was very high, but the value proposition didn't line up with what I felt was what business management should be. And
Right.
that's but the industry was that way. And so I was like, okay, this is just a difference in opinion between me and what the industry wants. And so, I left after 6 years and never thought I'd go back until meeting up with Josh, and the light bulb really came on for us. And it was, hey, this is a real problem. And it's not just me that feels this way. Here's a manager and an entertainment attorney that's telling me the same story. So I went and I spoke to 20, 30 other artist managers, handful of artists, to make sure that it wasn't just Josh and I meeting together by chance, but this was really something that was common within the industry. And the one message I got back was, absolutely, that was the issue. And so with Left Brain, that was me and Josh coming together to figure out how to solve this problem. It really boils down to 2 or 3 different things. One is transparency, making sure that information is being communicated in real time to managers and artists so they can use that information to their advantage. 2 is responsiveness. So when there is a question that you need an answer to, most managers need it now. They're not asking questions today because they need an answer in 3 weeks. They're asking questions today because they want it now. And so what we did with Left Brain, which is, is really a half fintech startup, half business management company is building out technology to fix those two core problems. One, building out an app that answers the 4 basic questions that every manager asks almost every day. How much money do I have? Who owes me money? Where did that money go? And who do I owe money to? And so we built an app to put that into our clients' pockets, and then also built out a back-end communication platform that allows us to be much more responsive to our clients. So, when Josh sends us a text about one of his clients, it goes into our system, and we're able to quickly respond. Our app has a direct messaging component to it so that we can quickly respond to messages that go out through that. And then even with our email, we have it set up so you only have to remember one email address for that one client, and it goes into our system. It's shared across the board with the whole team, and it's assigned to the appropriate team member to manage. That way, you don't have to CC the whole world or forward emails on or do any of that. So that was our approach to be able to solve those things, and it's worked out really well for us so far.
Eddie, as a teacher and, someone who, professor who's constantly seeing young artists, what do you think, because from my perspective, most artists have no knowledge and no understanding of finances, and they just know they need to go make a bunch of money, and that's kind of, they want to work on the music. So are you seeing the same sort of mindset with your students?
Yeah, where their goal is just to make money, but not understand how money actually works, understanding taxes, understanding percentages, and paying people off and saying like, oh yeah, I signed this deal for $1 million. Okay, yeah, that may be the lump sum that comes in after 4 albums. And think about the percentage you have to pay your management and all that. That overall perspective isn't really happening. They're just looking at the big picture as far as like, sign for as much as I can, get as much money as I make as much money as I possibly make right now. So I think the education side of the finances is going to be super important moving forward. Like a lot of young artists are going to just need to know the basics as far as like how much of their money is going to get taxed, just to think about and to save up when they are making money for shows, things like that aren't being taught.
One of the things that we had implemented that we saw amazing results with, and it's not something that I had seen in business management, but and it harks back to that bank account question that I was answering, Eddie, and it's really keeping your business and your personal finances separate and not commingling that. And by us doing that, what we're able to do is, we can project out into the future. We can look at a client and say, hey, based off of your current touring, which is now of course 0, but hopefully sooner rather than later that comes back, looking at what you're gaining between your royalty streams and sort of any other revenue streams, and what your expenses are on the business side, we conservatively believe that we can give you pay you $5,000 from your own business, or $10,000 or $20,000 or however much the amount is from your own business every single month, and that's what you have to cover your personal bills. And so rather than looking at a financial statement with 120 different line items and trying to find somebody with no business background and close those 2 gaps, by just making that small tweak, they're able to focus in on a number that's much more easier to understand. And then on the flip side, what we do in the business is, we boil it down to 7 or 8 really, really broad categories. And we're available to answer questions about those categories, but by simplifying in that manner and looking at it from a forward perspective. So, what we do is we take how much money you have in the bank account through the app. We look at all of the revenue streams that we know about that are coming up. We know what you typically spend for every dollar you bring in, because your different entities don't change their economics overnight. And then we can go to an artist and say, all right, 30 days from now, it looks like your bank account's going to be in the negative, and the app will tell you right there. Or maybe the number's going to be humongous. Both of those things require deep some conversations with the artist and with the manager to figure out what you're going to do. In the case of it being negative, you want to go out and get money or cut your expenses, and you can see that clearly. Or hopefully they have more money than they know what to do with, and we have to have a discussion on what to do with it.
All right. So you mentioned forecasting, which is a good segue, because now the time we're in, we're sitting here in this quarantine. nothing is really going on as far as touring wise. So I know you've done your forecasting and you were thinking, okay, this is how much you're expected to make based upon you got Lala coming up, you have Coachella, these different things. How are you now pivoting and helping these artists understand, one, this is how much you can spend during this time, and then two, this is what you should be focusing on, and this is what our projections may look like once this pandemic lifts.
Yeah, so first would be a conversation with the manager, right? And trying to see what new revenue's coming in. Yeah, if you have like TuneCore, and we know that, typically you make $2,000 a month through TuneCore, give or take $500. We can incorporate that into it. We look at all the different revenue streams that are consistent, and then we talk with managers to see, do we have any advances coming in? Are there any deals that you're currently working on? Sponsorship, what's going on from that perspective? And we really nail down what we expect the revenue to be going forward. And we're always conservative in this, because the last thing you want is to tell an artist that they're going to have enough money if they do X, Y, and Z, and then they do X, Y, and Z, and they still run out of money.
Yep.
So we want to make sure that we're super conservative in that respect.
Yeah,
the second thing we do is we look to see what revenue streams we can bring to the table. Whether that's right now, this whole week, or the last couple of weeks, we've been busy applying for unemployment for a lot of our touring artists, because California just allowed independent contractors to apply for unemployment through their system. And so, that helps from a revenue perspective. Then once we've got the revenue nailed down, we go back through your expenses. We look to see what we can cut back on. Conversations with insurance providers. Hey, you're paying $400 a month for insurance that relates to touring. Is there anything there that we can cut back on to shave that down? We want to make sure artists remain protected, but we don't want them, like, there's no need to be protected for incidents that happen on the road when they're not going on the road. And then once we have all that stuff nailed down and we've trimmed the expenses as much as we can, then it's just simple math.
Gotcha. Awesome. So are you sensing panic from artists right now? Do you feel like, because we can essentially look at artists like small businesses as well. A lot of small businesses are going down right now. Are you projecting the same thing that happened to some of these artists?
Yeah. So in terms of panic, like, yes and no. This is a feast or famine industry, and all of our clients struggled at one point. So they've all they've all lived through a stage in their career where money wasn't coming in, and they had to tighten their belt. So this isn't something that, it's unprecedented from a nation, but from a purely like revenue versus expense standpoint and changing lifestyle, this is not unprecedented for most artists. But they are concerned, and as they should be, because unlike before where they had some level of control, now they don't really have that level of control. They can't hustle harder to make more money. But with the help that the federal government has been able to provide, whether that's limited for smaller artists who are really struggling, the various independent like nonprofits that are trying to help the industry out, a lot of conversations with landlords, assuming they rent, to get deferrals. So there's lots of things that we're doing to help keep their head above water. I think we're only just starting to get into it, even though it's been 2 months. I'll be interested to see how that sentiment changes in another 2 or 3 months if we haven't moved on as a society.
Yeah. Kind of a good segue, Nic, because we were talking about bringing on our next guest, who I have to text to let him know to join, because we are super high tech. And Nic, I know you're super busy, and so we appreciate your time. And you're free to go.
Okay.
I mean, you don't have to. You can stick around, but I know how busy you are.
Yeah,
so, I feel like it serves me to tell you to go work.
You mean you don't want me to stick around and tell you all about accounting for music festivals, since that is a good segue to your next guest?
That is what I wonder. Are you actually? Do you find yourself more occupied now that you're in quarantine? Are artists hitting you up more? Is the workload busier? Like, how does it feel right now?
Well, we're very fortunate in that we're in an undifferentiated market with a differentiated product. and our app just got put onto the App Store starting earlier this week, and so we're starting to really take off. And so for us, for each individual client, our workload is way down, but we've been onboarding clients like crazy. In the last 2 weeks, we picked up 5 new clients, which is, a partner at a business management firm will maybe not even do 5 new clients in a year, some of them. So
I mean,
for us, we made up it with volume.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've noticed, and I think Nick, you probably noticed this too, is there are more deals happening right now. People are signing long-term publishing deals. Yeah, I mean, I think people are seeing their touring revenue dry up, and while they could have survived for a while just on that and don't want to go and sign a publishing deal, now it's like, well, man, I'd take a 6-figure check right now to ride it out through this until I can go out and tour. I think
that's the trigger point for a lot of
busy.
artists to hire business managers too, is they get that big check where they can afford to bring on a business manager, or they have that cash flow they have to manage. So that tends to be a trigger point. So all those things largely align.
Yeah. All right, cool.
All right, guys. Well,
so wait, you guys are on the App Store now? No, that's pretty amazing. I'm just gonna download the app just to have it on my phone now.
You won't be able to use it, but
yeah, that's fine. I just want to have it so I can.
You just collect apps, so yeah.
It's a good member of your app collection.
If somebody's on my phone, I'll be like, yeah, these are my homies right there. They got that.
Yeah, it's available on the App Store, but to actually utilize it, you have to be a client. So yeah. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you guys. Good luck in the rest of your podcast interviewing.
Thank you so much. Eddie, we finally get some alone time.
Hey, man. What's going on? How you been?
It's been crazy. You started out the show talking about Say So, and that's been my entire life for the last week and a half, is pushing that song to number 1. Yeah. Trying everything under the sun to get it there. There's stuff I can talk about, and then there's stuff that I definitely cannot talk about.
Right. Now there was I was checking our Twitter, the Lord for Musicians Twitter, and I'm like, why do we have so many notifications? And there's somebody out there, like one of the fan pages, was like, make sure you go, hey, release the original version to Say So. I'm like,
they found me.
I was like, I don't think.
Dude, it's crazy. I just took my phone number off of my email because last night I got a call from a fan, like telling me what to do about the remix. It was the most sort of disconcerting call ever. I saw a number, it was an LA number, and so I just was like, all right, cool, like I'll see what it is. And this kid was like, you need to do this, this, and this, and that's how Nicky's gonna get to number 1. And I had no idea who the kid was, but he was calling me at home, and I was like, man, I appreciate your level of fandom, but you calling me with my family, and it's like I'm eating dinner, and I'm like, thank you for your advice. Yeah. So it's been interesting for sure.
Is it hit number 1 yet, or is it still?
We'll find out. I mean, it's number 1 rhythm radio, and then we'll find out if it's Hot 100, Billboard number 1. We won't find out till probably Monday. Okay. But yeah, we've been pushing. So
you're saying this weekend I need to get a couple streams in?
It's too late. They do. Billboard goes from they go from Friday to Thursday.
Gotcha.
Or it's like Thursday to Thursday. Those numbers. So it's been interesting, and maybe we can get into it more during some other time.
Yeah, I'm with that.
Yeah, because we have our next guest. Although I don't know if he can hear us.
Can you hear us?
No, I got you. I had to take the AirPods out. They weren't connecting.
Oh, word. What's going on, brother?
Much. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, man.
Good to see you. So this is Michael Berg. I just know him as Berg.
Most people.
Most people that know him do. And he has been in promotion and live touring, live events, run festivals. And I'm super interested to get his take on where things are specifically with live music and in Chicago and outside of Chicago. Berg, did I miss anything? Is there anything else I should say about you?
No, I mean,
Pretty good, right?
Yeah, that kind of sums it up.
Sure.
The nice introduction. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So tell us what you're doing now. I mean, what is there for you to do right now?
Well, the first couple of weeks of this whole shutdown, a lot of energy was put towards rescheduling, and which inevitably turned to further rescheduling, which inevitably turned to a lot of cancellations. So, kicking the can down the road, a lot of spinning of wheels, unfortunately. And then a lot of the shift and focus has now turned towards, how to pivot and what to do, how to make money, how to get back to a situation where we could have live events again. Not just we, but I mean the collective we, like everyone.
Right.
There's, all sorts of stuff happening with streaming. That's, it's a good fix for the time being. But it certainly doesn't, replace the experience of being in a large crowd, like in front of a stage and really like feeling the band or the DJ or the performer do their thing and seeing the production and feeling the energy of people around you. And, there was like a meme going around the other day about like a rail, like people were going to buy a rail to put on their, in front of their TV for couch tour. So they could feel, so they could feel like they were front row. It was kind of funny. I had to share it, but, some of the streaming things are cooler than other ones. I know I've talked to you about this before when we used to have the office, but my management client, Manic Focus, is doing something cool on Monday night. He's releasing his Mind's Mix. It's like a volume series that he does of like mixtapes. And his laser light guy is based in Lawrence, Kansas, and is going to set up in the Granada Theater. And Manic himself, or J-Mac, is in Denver, and he's going to be playing the DJ set from Denver, but we're going to be streaming it's going to sync to the laser light show. So
cool.
The way to level it up so it's not just like a dude in his room playing to the computer again, like it's actually like a little bit more production. And Chandler, who's just like a ridiculous laser light guy, he really put some effort into making this special. It's going to be pretty cool. So things like that, and like other elements of that regard, are starting to level up the, the streaming and couch tour type situation. But again, it doesn't really fully wipe it out or like replace it.
Sure.
And the next thing that's like the big hype of the last, week and a half, 2 weeks is drive-ins.
The drive-in tour. I saw that.
Yeah.
So what do you know about that, and what do you think? You think that's a Band-Aid for?
I think it's a Band-Aid. There's a lot of things that make it complicated, because it's like, so okay, fine. Say the three of us all want to take our car and drive to a parking lot and watch a drive-in performance. Now, there's a few things to consider. One is the performance being streamed from one place and broadcast to all the different drive-ins, or is that person actually at the drive-in and they're still actually watching a real performance? That's the first part. Second part is, how do you pay an artist that's big enough that people will sit in their cars to watch them instead of just sitting on their couch to watch them on TV? And like with a limited capacity, because like once you put cars in, there has to be enough space to space out all the cars.
Right.
And so like it reduces the capacity considerably. And then the bigger question is, what happens if someone needs to go to the bathroom? Or what happens if they want to buy a beverage? Or like how do you service people with concessions and, all that kind of stuff. And those are the things that are being worked through right now. And like I've heard different, like this Mark Rebier guy, he's doing like an actual tour where he performs at the drive-in. And I think that feels like a little more special to me than like, having even like
a movie.
Act, like a Radiohead or a Pearl Jam, like some huge act, or a Doja, or like anyone, like set up a performance and then they're just streaming it everywhere. And, it's like, well, I get the urge to leave your house and to just be out and to go do something. But if you're just watching it streamed from a drive-in, me personally, I don't I would rather get to this point and start having events again and do something to push us towards normalcy. But on a personal level, I'd rather be at home and watch it in my own house and like have, you know, drinks and bathrooms and my couch and fresh air from my, you know, balcony and whatever. So that's just me. But, you know, people have the itch. And for our festival that we work on down in Florida, Sewanee Halloween, we just released we just announced the dates. And it was kind of a save the dates message. And it came with some like sincere honesty that this is wishful thinking. We don't know that we're going to be able to have a show. It's different in every state and it's different in every city and municipality. And, you know, it's not even necessarily totally like a red state, blue state, or like Republican Democrat thing, but like every leader has their own set of like values, reasons that they want things to open or to not. And, you know, Florida is quite frankly maybe a place that will open sooner than others. So
I saw something that the Miami Dolphins announced that they were going to have 16,000 people into the stadium, and they had it all mapped out, including how people would be able to get food. So you would put an order in through a phone, through an app, and then they would bring it down, which is like, why don't they already have that? Because that's brilliant.
And there's
and something with the bathrooms. It's probably single file in there. But how awesome would that be to go to a football game with only 15,000 people and there's nobody in front of you? I just don't know. Do you think music will move the same way, where they just limit the crowds? How do they make enough money?
There was an article that Live Nation was talking about that, opening up venues at 25% capacity. So I was weirded about that. That's all I want. So Berg, chime in on that. Like, how do you even see that working, you know?
Okay, so thank you for saying that, because that brings up another example. And I was going to bring up the sports one with the Dolphins. I read that article also. But Eddie, there's a venue in, I believe, Arkansas that's holding a show on Monday. And I think I'm butchering the numbers here, but this is like a general like gist of it is it's like 1,100 cap venue, and they're letting like 150 people come. It's like about 10% or something. And what I'm trying to understand, because we've talked about this in Chicago and we've talked about this with venues and you know, from as small as like a Chop Shop Lincoln Hall to as big as like an Aragon or a Northerly Island. If you have a general admission venue, how do you really control social distancing? So it's like when it's a stadium and you can put X amount of seats, you say like there's only this many people can sit in this section and there's seats, and you have to be 4 seats apart. Like that's how you do it. If you go to Concord Music Hall or you go to the Aragon and you say you can only have 25% here, how do you space those people out? Do you have to put barricades up and make 6 foot by 6 foot like
little
pods?
penalty boxes?
That's what's been talked about. It's like little rage cage pods, you know. And like outside of some like fairly heavy security measures that I think will probably hurt the vibe of the experience a little bit. I don't know how you really can like police that. And I hate to use that word, but that's what it is. It's like if people are going to have their temperatures taken walking into a venue, it's already hard enough getting in and out of venues with the searches and the pat downs, and they're necessary. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't happen, but it takes long enough as it is, especially if it's say like a normal show that starts at like, you know, doors at 9, music at 10, and the headliner goes on at 11. At 10:30, everyone shows up at the same time, and like there's just no way to manage it coming in. And now you're going to add an element of, on top of the search, you're going to have to take everyone's temperature, and then you know I read things about not allowing more than 10 people in a bathroom at one time, which makes sense and that's fine. But again, like what happens if somebody has to go to the bathroom? Do they have to wait in a line 6 feet apart to get in? There's so many logistics that are still being massaged and worked through that it's really like we're in the infantile stages of this whole thing. And like going back to the hula thing, that's basically what we tried to say to the fans is like, we're experiencing this in real time with all of you. Like we're watching the news, we're reading things, we believe what we believe, we disagree with what we disagree with, but like we're experiencing this at the same time as you. We don't have some sort of like, the industry at large doesn't have some master playbook on like how to deal with this. This is absolutely unprecedented for anything that people of our generation at the very least and like in lifetime have experienced or anything of the sort.
For sure. I mean, it also just goes back, like begs the question again, like you said with the drive-in. Like if they, if there was a show and it was like my favorite band of all time, but I had to go with 150 people right now, and I know everybody's going to just try to get up towards the front, and I don't know who these people are, even if they took my temperature. Like, I'm not going to that. I'm good, And on top of that, if you only have 150 people into a venue that can hold, 10 times that amount, how is the venue making any money? They got to pay the band, right? Like, I mean, and you got to pay security and all that kind of stuff. What's the point of opening under those circumstances?
I think generally it's an urge to fulfill a human desire at this point. It's like people's livelihoods. Like, this is what we do. Like, we throw concerts. Like, people are fans. They go to concerts. They go to their day job. They go to concerts to blow off steam. And it's like, now that outlet has been taken away from them, people are just yearning to go do something. And you can't blame them. It's like some days are easier than others throughout this process. Like, I've had days where I've like enjoyed moments of like, wow, I haven't had this much downtime in as long as I can remember. And then the next day I'm like, wow, I haven't been this bored in as long as I can remember. It's like, it goes back and forth and round and round. And like, some days are easier than others, but I think that there's like truly a yearning for people to get out. And like, the messages that we got back from the Save the Date announcement on Hulu was, thank you for giving some sort of hope. Thank you for being honest with us that like this might not happen, but that you hope it does as much as we do. And it was actually like probably the best part of this whole week are some of the messages that we got from people.
Right.
And it made,
you came with the human element, man. So many people are like thinking corporate, and it's like, okay, we understand insurance policies and all that, and why you can't say cancellation over postponement and all that, but sometimes you just have to have some empathy for these fans that just genuinely want to get outside and do something, just want to experience life again. So yeah, down in Florida, it's very interesting because I don't know if you guys noticed, Saturday is going to be the UFC fight. So they're actually going to have a UFC main event going on down there. I don't think they're going to have any fans, but they've been deemed an essential business. So now Dana White was able
only
to
in Florida. It's only in Florida, though, right?
So I wonder if they'll even deem touring or anything like that a part of essential business, or if they'll just wait until a vaccine becomes available or whatever the case may be. But
I mean, I know people that are in the music industry, whether they're marketing people or producers or promoters or artists or tour managers or whatever, and like, people are split pretty evenly. Like, some people are like, let's get back to business. If we get sick, we get sick, and I don't think that people are thinking about like them asymptomatically killing someone else by carrying the virus, like as much as they're just like, if I get sick, so be it. And other people are like, you know what, until there's tracing and until there's a vaccine, I'm not going out. And you can't really get mad at either side of those positions, I mean, you can, but like,
I could get mad. I can get mad at that first.
Yeah, you can get mad if you're going to kill someone, but like, all I'm saying is understand.
No, I understand.
Both ways is all I'm saying.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's scary, I mean, the whole thing is scary, and it's like, I understand the desire to get back to work. And, we work with all these restaurateurs, and they're having the exact same conversations. It's like, all right, well, at 25% capacity, which is like in the phase 3 in Illinois, where they're going to open up restaurants, but it's only 25 to 50% capacity. They can't make any money because, they got to pay rent, and they're going to have staff, and they're going to have food costs, and everything that they set up is based on the size of the capacity of their restaurant. And the same, I'm sure, with bars that have live music, so it's like, they can't, 50% doesn't do anything other than maybe psychologically. It's like, oh, business is open again.
Or like, it helps you get rid of your inventory that might be going bad in a freezer or like a refrigerator or something.
Sure.
And like, I'm glad that you guys brought up UFC and that Dolphins thing, because when this first happened and South by was kind of the first big major event to go down, I was hemming and hawing to my partners and my friends. I'm like, why, blah, blah, blah. If, I'm like, if this was real, I'm like, sports would shut down. I'm like, why is music the only one falling on the sword? I'm like, I don't understand why music events are the only thing shutting down. And less than 10 days later, it was like about a week later, the NCAA tournament went down and NBA went down. And I'm like, all right, this shit's real. Like, take it seriously.
Yeah, man, I miss sports.
No, it was definitely like that. We had one podcast episode where I'm talking about, I can't wait to do South by. I don't care. More people are going down with the flu. Then, like the next week, the NBA was canceled. We're like, oh yeah, so this thing is serious.
Yeah.
How are we going to brace for this?
And I mean, I've been told that by super high ups at agencies that they are following Major League Baseball. That once baseball starts, and however they do it, then the rest of the sports leagues and entertainment will follow suit.
Yep.
And I mean, I've heard crazy, but it doesn't really work for music. I heard something about, I think the entire NBA season, rest of the season would be played at Disney World.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear that?
That sports complex they have down there.
Yeah.
It's a huge complex. They be able to house all of them.
Wow.
But you can't do that for music.
Right.
Like it just doesn't work for concerts.
It really doesn't.
So I don't know. I mean, Berg, are you seeing, outside of just hoping that there's a vaccine and there's the tracing and all the stuff that you mentioned, are you seeing people that are in your position specifically that are either running festivals or events or venues? What are they doing? It's not like you can open up a Twitch page and make as much money as you do when you're promoting a concert.
Yeah. I mean, it's impossible. And a lot of people are trying to pivot and figure out how to weather the storm. And like I said earlier, there's not a playbook on this. Like no one really knows how to do it. And like, we're going to I expect to keep following the trends of sports. And, even like if like they had said at one point before that Dolphins thing came out about NBA and NFL and baseball too, that like they'll play games, but without fans there. And as weird as that is for the players, probably like to not have that energy and like noise around them, I'm sure that everyone sitting at home would rather watch games with no crowd than no games at all. Maybe feel more like a practice, but like have some real implications with like records and postseason and stuff like that. But that doesn't apply to music. Like you can't do the same thing. Otherwise you basically are just live streaming, which is already happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that sucks. I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah, I wish I had better news on it. I mean, like I said, some days are easier than others. Some days it seems more promising. And it's crazy because this has only been a couple of months. It feels like it's been a year already. Like it's
for sure.
Time's moving slow for sure. But I think that as far as Chicago's concerned and like other major markets, I could see the capacity thing rolling out with smaller venues first. If I'm, I can't predict anything, but if I was going to try, I would see that happening. And then like the mid-sized venues opening up next, and then the major, arenas and Aragons and things like that opening up last. But
nobody's got the crystal ball on this one. That's for sure.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thanks, Berg. I don't mean to, be down, but it's kind of hard not to be. I'm just hopeful, and Eddie and I have talked about this before. I'm just hopeful that this is like a period of ultimate creativity for artists, and like we're just going to get crazy good projects that come out of this. And I don't know what else artists can do now other than make music.
And outside of the artist and like industry side of it, like what Eddie was mentioning earlier, like the human element of it, like I'm a hippie, so I hope these kind of things, but like, maybe there could be a bit of an awakening, like people actually like appreciating their live experience or like appreciating dinner with a group of friends, and like, how long that'll last in America. Who knows? But
a couple weeks.
At least a couple weeks, and it'll be a really great couple weeks.
Maybe finally people will put their cell phones down during the show.
That's what
and actually watch the show.
That's what I'm saying.
If we get that, then maybe this was all.
Dude, that was good, Berg. You flipped it. You took us down and brought us back up.
He left us out here with the love.
Awesome. All right, thanks, man. I appreciate you talking to us.
No problem. Thanks for having me on. It's good to see your guys' faces again. I miss seeing you guys.
See you as well, bro.
All right, man. Berg. Anything holler.
Until next time.
All right. Peace.
All right. Eddie.
Yes, sir.
Do we end it here? I feel like we've gone. The quarantine radio itself is like not our Lawyer for Musicians podcast, where we're not bringing up current events because
there's not really
the only current event is the pandemic.
Right.
Right. I don't know, we could regale people with some stories of your barbecue cooking,
I mean,
or
I have been going crazy on the smoker.
I've been seeing.
I'd
Yeah.
say we can save that for next one, because then we'll know. Then Doja will be number one, so we can
I hope
celebrate
so.
that.
Yeah.
We got Mother's Day coming up, so I'm going big on Mother's Day. So I'll
Okay.
have a nice recap. I think I'm gonna try and do the brisket and chicken at the same time.
Oh man.
You know, see
God.
how I can do that, man.
Yeah. You make me want to get a smoker.
Hey, you should get one. I'll come by,
Yeah.
do whatever I got to do on it. But hey, you need that thing,
Okay.
because it's
All right.
it's amazing.
All right. Cool. Then let's call it.
Cool beans. So thank you guys for tuning in to another episode. Like, subscribe, do all those things, comment. I'm Eddie. This is Josh.
We're out.
Peace.
See ya.